Did you know that your traps aren't just there to make you look jacked? I mean, they do that like really well, but they do so much more. They're vital for maintaining posture, they protect your spine and neck, and they lend an immense amount of power to compound barbell lifts and general athletic activities. So if the sticky note at the top of your dream board says lift more weight, traps are going to be a crucial part of that equation. Now, if you're in agreement with me, but you wonder why your traps are falling behind, I've got some insight. And that means something coming from me because I'm a guy who would rather ride the Tour de France on a bicycle with no seat than go in and do a dedicated trap workout. So these are the 4 stupid things I did that made my traps grow. Stupid thing number 1, shoulder exercises. Now, shoulder work has a monumental effect on trap development, and it's the reason why so many can get a pretty impressive yoke going without doing a single shrug. At the top of my list is the upright row. It's one of my favorite barbell staples to ever get canceled. One person having an impingement from upright rows does not mean that everybody else should avoid it like the plague. How many of you are skipping bench presses because some people tore their pecs? Now, cannonball shoulders are a major side effect of upright rows. It's the main purpose for doing them, but it also strengthens the backside of your shoulder girdle in a way that few things do, and this becomes a huge weakness for a lot of people. So growing this area means more efficient pressing, more well-rounded aesthetics, and a useful strength that you didn't know you were missing until it's time to maneuver a couch above the stair railings up to your buddy's 3rd-story apartment. Now, for the traps, it's almost impossible to do a challenging upright row without a shrugging motion involved. And that feature takes what was already a great delt developer and turns it into a sneaky dual threat. Now, like I said, I've had trouble wedging in trap work directly because it's just a weird movement to get excited about. Like, honestly, I don't care about shrugs. So this type of tactic where I'm strapping my trap work to more useful and rewarding exercises was clutch. To emphasize the traps in this movement, I like to initiate with a shrug before pulling with the arms, elevate your shoulders up to your ears, then initiate the upright row, try to lead with the elbows. I find that this actually makes the movement feel stronger and more secure anyways. Obviously, you don't want to be reckless. If you can't get the bar past your nipples, drop weight, it's too heavy. And if you have just horrible, shitty rotation ability, if you're super tight, you're not going to want to pile on the weight. Keep it slow and controlled, get to double-digit reps, shut it down once the burn starts to set in, and just focus on improving your comfort with the movement week to week as your flexibility increases. Aim to get to at least your collarbone, and once you feel comfortable with it, progress weight in the 6 to 10 rep range. You'll see a lot of people recommend trap exercises higher rep. This is a long pull and it uses a lot of muscles, so a challenging set in the 6 to 10 rep range is going to be pretty good. Don't complicate the progression, just a few sets, 3 to 4, close to your limit on each one, and then just add weight when it makes sense. If you do hate upright rows or they give your shoulders trouble, you can also apply this to other shoulder accessory work. I've done heaps of barbell and dumbbell front raises, one of my favorite shoulder accessory movements that a lot of people don't take seriously, and I've also done a whole hell of a lot of lateral raises, and implementing the shrug, really trying to emphasize the stretch at the bottom and the contraction at the top, has a very similar effect. Stupid thing number 2, farmer walks. I've beaten this point into the ground and I will continue to do so. This is the hill I shall die on. Carries should be added on as a staple part of the big movement. We used to consider the big 3, the power lifts, the squat, bench, and deadlift, 3 movements to basically take care of your entire body. Eventually, the overhead press got slapped onto that, and I myself have advocated to bent rows being added on to complete all of the basic movement patterns of the human body. But I'm not done yet. I believe an extra spot should be added to the Mount Rushmore of staple big compound movements, and that is a carry, a heavy weighted carry, whatever kind you like. But if you add carries onto that, squat, bench, dead, overhead row carry, the big 6, that's still manageable for any devout minimalist, and the returns you get from adding them in more than justify their presence. This is why you see Josh Bryant championing them for so long. He makes even his bodybuilding clients do them.
I didn't know you can get pregnant in the chest. Ask your mom, Scott.
As well as freak Tom Haviland, who can be seen taking stupid weights for crazy distances on farmer walks, keg carries, yokes, and so on. And his traps look like some prosthesis you would get at Spirit Halloween store. Now, specifically for trap development, you want to pick a carry where they are engaged the most. And that's where we get farmer walks, which are a special kind of hell for all of the musculature that supports your spine. You would think the walking really taxes your legs, and I find after 20 years of doing this that the legs actually don't get hit that much, especially when you're conditioned to to it. And when your grip goes, it just kind of goes. The muscles around your midsection, up into your lats, and yes, your traps, with a sufficiently heavy farmer walk with your grip taken out of the equation, they all get hit at maximal capacity with much more weight and for much longer than anything you could even possibly rig up in a gym environment. Now, like I said, 20 years of strongman doing farmer walks, and while they've influenced my physique, I've been previously hesitant to recommend them as a quote-unquote muscle builder, but that's because of how I did them. Historically, for contests, I would do shorter runs, 50 to 100 feet, sometimes heavy to where my grip would be the limiting factor, but usually as fast as possible where I was trying to improve foot speed for competition. Once I threw on the straps, fully committed to being a filthy cheater, and went closer to failure, now my grip was no longer the thing causing me to fail. Now it was my abs, my erectors, my lats, and yes, my traps. Those were the limiting factors. They took the brunt, and this movement evolved into a very different thing. The traps specifically get hit here when you go several hundred feet, and it takes 30 to 45 seconds before your body slowly winds down into the dirt. Because as you fatigue, the weights just drop closer to the ground. You're getting more and more and more of a stretch as you're just barely hanging on, and that is beyond anything you would get from a barbell shrug or anything else. So you're getting this peak overloaded stretch in a way that you just can't replicate. It's just in its own ballpark. So you want to push the limits on these. Carries should go well beyond 30 seconds up to a minute, and probably should have you clearing 200 feet or 300 feet or more. Now, if you don't have that distance in a runway, or you don't have a frame or a farmer's walk or whatever, it doesn't matter. Anything you can strap into to hold on to, heavy dumbbells at your gym, you can practice turning and doing laps, or you can just march in place for time. The point is to take the supportive musculature of your spine and push it to the absolute limit. And if you do that, your body is going to adapt accordingly. You ever find yourself confused by the complexity of programming? I know I struggled like crazy in my early strongman career. There was just too much advice, and every decision I made felt like a guess. As soon as I hit a snag in any program, I would have no idea what to do, so I would inevitably bail. It took me years of training and coaching to figure out how to predictably increase muscle and strength, both in myself and others. And those lessons took me to my own showings in World's Strongest Man, America's Strongest Man, and the Arnold in the 231-pound weight class. This is why we made Base Strength AI, to give clear, direct, and personalized instruction right in the middle of your workout in real time. Base Strength AI features 3 programs: Block, 70s Powerlifter, and Bull Mastiff, each one inspired by the work ethic and programming of the biggest and strongest bodybuilders, powerlifters, and strongmen throughout history. These templates originated in my book Base Strength, and they can be ran as is, but with Base Strength AI, weight and volume are prescribed to you on your specific feedback, and that's personalization that even an online coach can't replicate. This gives you the absolute certainty that every rep is meaningful, that every block of training is getting you closer to your goals. It's my programming, but it's your program. Get the heart of old school training with the intelligence of a coach right in your back pocket. Head now to basestrength.com. Stupid thing number 3, modify barbell rows. In the exact same way that upright rows can kind of sneakily peek out your traps with a few adjustments, horizontal rowing movements also use the traps very heavily. I religiously kept my rows flat and strict as a young pup, and I credit that to the early width I got in my lats, but for years my lats were like the Matterhorn, but my traps lagged behind, barely looking like the bunny slopes. But once I loosened up my strictness and started to explore different techniques here, I noticed that strength and size began to shift. My physique rounded out a bit more. A more upright position on the rowing movements, which I always dismissed as ego lifting, actually began to have a huge impact on the upper part of my back. The same rules apply here as with the shoulder movement. Initiate with a shrug, that's going to accentuate the engagement, and that easy tweak applied to something like a Yates row or an inclined seal row with a barbell or dumbbells or a hammer strength low row can easily add a bit of stimulus that makes quick and noticeable improvements without having to incorporate a dedicated shrug or trap day. Again, many lifters that have already implemented this variety have grown a nifty set of traps just by default, but if you haven't, this is an easy plugin to try. Stupid thing number 4, key shrug variations. As I said in the beginning, shrugs are not the be-all end-all, but they are a key to growing the trap. So many things already hit the traps, so you need a little bit of specificity in there if you actually want your traps to touch your ears. The good news here is that you don't need to load 19 plates on a chrome bar rated for 3 and do your best El Campeon impersonation. In fact, the load experienced by deadlifts and rows, and especially if you're doing the long hard farmer carries with straps, it's already maxing out your trap's tolerance to load. So if we're going to use shrugs, it should be on the other end of that spectrum with deliberate control and a focus on the contraction. Now, like I said, I personally hate shrugs, but the one shrug movement I don't hate are Heise shrugs. It might sound like a procedure for when someone's choking, but it's actually a game-changing trap movement. Essentially, you shrug with a loaded barbell across your back instead of holding the weight in your hands. But the trade-off is you're not going to get the deep stretch that occurs when your shoulders are slowly being pulled out of their socket with too much weight. However, it is very easy to execute, very easy to set up, and it's very easy to recover from. You'll notice if you've done heavy shrugs, it's not something that you're probably going to do for a lot of volume frequently throughout the week. So to add in frequency using something like this in between squat sets or supersetted with other stuff is super easy. I mean, seriously, if you're around a standing calf machine, all you have to do is mosey on over, get under the load, and do 15 to 20 shrugs in a slow, controlled style. And by the time you're done with that, you're going to be ready to go back to your rope press downs or Swiss ball crunches. Again, super easy hack. Just make it a thing that you do, supersetting it with something else a few days a week. You get all the targeted stimulus of actually elevating your shoulder girdle without your back getting effed up or people looking at you like an obnoxious dick for making a scene in the power rack. 4 or 5 sets 2 to 3 times per week, and you'll constantly be pulled out of line at the airport because TSA is going to mistake your traps for contraband. Now, these are 4 things I've done relatively consistently over the years, and the difference in my trap development was pretty pronounced. Hopefully some of you beanpoles can use these to turn into no necks in no time. Let me know what your favorite trap builder is in the comments. That's all I got for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.